Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, let me just say I have a special admiration for Italian mayors who are Yankee fans. You know, I believe our first priority in any type of immigration laws are one to protect the American people. I think that is first and foremost in my mind and what we should do, and obviously immigration is at the forefront of what we're debating here. And I like to point out that when we talk about border security, sometimes what's left out is visa overstays. Nearly over 40% of the people that are in the country illegally didn't cross a border. They come legally on a visa, overstay their visa, and we simply can't find them. When I look at, and in any state that has an international airport, I believe you're therefore a border state. When we look at some of the attacks that we've seen, whether it be the Christmas Day bomber, whether it was Tamerlan going back to a country that he was fleeing from and being able to get back into the United States, whether it was his buddy who got back here on a student visa when he wasn't even in school any longer, whether it was Mahmoud Abu Holama, who in 1986 was given amnesty as an ag worker, when in reality he was a taxi cab driver and was involved in the 1993 attack on a World Trade Center. The only thing he planted in America was a bomb. Whether it be the two of the pilots on 9/11 who had their student visas approved after they were dead. I think it's obvious to me that we have gaping holes in our visa system here. And my question is, with that, do you feel that it would be in the best interest of the American people that we fix that problem first, since we know it is a national security threat and would solve half of our problem, as well as making cities? No one knows better than you what happens when somebody gets by. I'd like your opinion.
Well, Mr. Barletta, I think there's no question that our immigration system has to be fixed. I mean, your body has just passed a massive reform. Some people think it's enough, some people think it isn't enough, but you've made a good faith effort to try to fix it, which hasn't been done in a very long time, to improve border security. I think that too often we think of border security just in terms of illegal immigration. We don't think of it in terms of, if we're open to illegal immigration, we're also open to terrorists coming in, and we don't know who they are, drug dealers coming in, criminals coming in, people who are mentally ill coming in. A civilized country controls its border. There's nothing unfair about that. There's nothing inhumane about that. It's actually humane to the citizens that are here, that we make a good faith effort to figure out everybody that's in this country and identify themselves when they come in. Virtually every other democracy has a pretty strict policy about who they let into their country. You know, you travel, I travel. We have to identify ourselves when we go into England, France, Germany, Italy, China, any place else. So I think that to the extent that we can have a system that allows us to get as close to 100% as possible of identifying everybody who comes into the United States, we're going to be a much safer country. We're going to be safer against terrorism. We're going to be safer against crime. We're going to be safer against communicable disease. So I think this is just one of the things that, you know, benefits from it. And if we don't have control, if we don't have reasonable control of our borders, then, you know, everything else kind of falls apart. So I hope that with the bill that you passed, not that you, the Senate passed, and the bill that you're going to pass eventually, I hope what comes out of that is, whatever happens on the other part of it, much more resources for border patrol. I've always thought it was much easier than people think to control the southern border of the United States, that it is not as impossible a task as people make it out to be. I look at the size of the border. I think of how I reorganized the police department to reduce crime in New York City. And I know this sounds like a strange statement, but I think it would be easier to control the southern border to reduce crime by 50 or 60% in New York City. And the scale is about the same. We have 77 police precincts. you'd need about 50 Border Patrol stations. We had about 40,000 police officers. You probably only need about 20 to 30,000 Border Patrol to do it. And if we did it, we would end up with a much better economic system too. Then if we had control over who was coming in legally and we knew who they were, then we could expand the number of people coming in legally. We could make it easier for them to come in legally, make it impossible for them to come in illegally. And I think this will help reduce the risk of terrorism, and it helps in about 100 other ways.
I think simply put, you wouldn't replace the carpet in your home if you still had a hole in your roof.
I think that's right, yes.
Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank the gentleman.